Welcome, welcome. Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine Hecht. I'm the Executive Director of the Alexander Valley Film Society, and I am calling in today from my office here in Cloverdale, California. I am so pumped to introduce our guest for today. The incomparably beautiful and talented Elizabeth Rodriguez is in the studio with us. And before I introduce, just a couple of housekeeping notes. We are live across multiple platforms. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Please be sure and say hello in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. And I can't wait for us to talk to our guest. Hopefully you had a moment to check out 1155 this week or a rewatch of 1155. She's got an incredible range. She's been around for a while. TV, film, theater, the works. Please welcome to the studio the incredibly talented Elizabeth Rodriguez. Hello. Elizabeth, can you hear me? Oh, no. Oh, there you are. Hi. Oh, boy.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. There you go.
Hi.
You were pixelated for a second, but now you're there.
Oh, okay. I'm here.
You're here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank
you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're actually you're a little slow.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now it seems like we've caught up. Are you caught up?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. Well, so I'm putting my phone aside to stop with the distractions. God. Okay. Well, so amazing that you're here today. And this is so great. By the way, just a huge shout out before we get started to Steve Diaz, who has a professional relationship. Was Steve your agent? Was Steve your agent?
He was my agent. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
And Steve and his wife, Kirsten, now have moved up full-time to their home here in Cloverdale. And Kirsten Diaz, Steve's wife, is on the board of the Film Society. So that's how we're all talking today, which is really cool. So anyway, congratulations on just being an incredible person, but just having such an impressive body of work and on a great film. 1155 is a really great, rich story. And can you tell us how you initially came to that project?
Yes, I can. Ben Snyder, one of the three writers and directors, is a good friend and also now a collaborator, and he's in the theater company. He was a playwright and had written and worked with Ari on a short together, and they've worked on a couple things together. And he just wrote this film, and he wrote this part for me and a bunch of other friends of his. There were a lot of people he wanted to work with, and ultimately he wanted to and has always wanted to work with me being the lead in something. And so I was in the middle of shooting Orange when this came up, and I read it and I really liked it. But the scene that sold it for me was the scene in the barbershop that made Aleida seem a little civilized. Yeah, I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna see this film, but that scene is so worth me working on this. And I ended up being incredibly impressed by the film.
Mm-hmm.
The editing of it, the stuff that was cut out, there was nothing that was overly spoken, overly written, nothing was kept. I didn't miss the stuff that I was taken out of. I was really impressed with the film before and after editing. Yeah. I just rewatched it 2 days ago so that I could be really clear in my mind.
Do you always watch your work?
Yeah. No, I haven't watched a lot of my work that's out right now. I didn't watch the last season of Orange.
Oh, really?
I haven't watched. Yeah. Well, the thing with the last season of Orange was that I always watched the season right before we started shooting again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, I'll wait. And then and then I think like the window sort of closed of like, oh, I have to watch it. Oh, I want to watch it. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's about, oh, when I watch it's going to really, really feel final. And so now I'm like, oh, I got to watch that. I do want to. There's a part of me that feels a little like narcissistic watching, going back and let me go see a whole season of my work. It's crazy. There's a lot of things I haven't watched of mine. Most of the stuff of mine I haven't watched, which is crazy. I know. Because how are you supposed to learn?
Intuitively, I guess. Intuitively. Yeah.
What not to do next time.
So your career, and we'll get back to 1155 in a second. So your career, you were born and raised in Manhattan, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yes,
then
I was born and raised in Manhattan.
And at a young age, you started doing TV. Did you not?
Yes, I did. It was just, what did I do first? It was just, I had a boyfriend that was an actor, and I think the first thing I did was an independent film, though, and then I started doing TV. And he asked his agent if she would blind submit me for something, and she did. And they gave me, I didn't get that part, but I got a smaller part in the film. And so then she was like, can I sign you?
Oh, nice. And you did several like repeated episodes. So you did what I'm missing. It wasn't series recurring. Okay.
Recurring.
Yeah. So you did several of those. And then what do you feel was your break?
Oh, there were so many times early on that I felt was my break, and then it just dissolved. There are pilots that get shot, which are episodes, and for the longest time prior to new media, you shoot this pilot, you felt like you hit the jackpot, and then you waited to see if it got picked up. So there were a couple of those, and then they go into the abyss and they don't get picked up, and no one ever knows that you shot this thing. They could have changed your life or not. So there were a couple of those that happened. And then when I did Miami Vice, the film, it was a 3-picture deal that you have to sign ahead of time just in case it blows up, and then, you don't have the negotiation weight. And so I thought that was also going to be my moment. And then I learned to not set myself up or have those expectations. So then when Orange came around, I think it was like in the middle of the second season or later where I realized, oh, this is a big deal. So yeah, I just ended up doing the exact opposite of like not knowing that, like not expecting and not putting myself in that place. And so when I shifted that relationship, I was sort of blindsided.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you mentioned Ari is part of the theater company. And for those of you who don't know, Elizabeth is a part of the Lab Theater in New York. And can you tell us what that is?
Mm-hmm. Well, Ben Snyder is in the theater company, and so is now Victor, who plays the lead. It ended up being one of the co-writers. Ari's been a friend for years.
Gotcha.
The Labyrinth Theater Company started out as a theater company for Latinx. It was called the Latino Actors Base, and it was started with a vision that John Ortiz had with a couple of other men to create a space where there was no space or voice for Latinos. And then it changed to Labyrinth as we became inclusive and ended up having people, brown, black, and white people.
Right.
through the years. Now we've been around for 28 years.
28
which is
years?
incredible. We are a membership company. So we had a board, but everything we do is non for profit, and we try, and the members have been encouraged to do other things within the company. If you're an actor, to direct. And at one point, because there was no money, everyone did everything: lights, ticket sales, AD, whatever it took.
And
when you're young, you can do things.
Oh yeah, but then you really baked some of these relationships that
absolutely.
I feel like. Have you been in a lot of stuff with David Zayas, or am I making that up?
I've been in a couple, not in film. This was 1155 was the only film that I was in, and we didn't even have a scene together. The first film ever. But I have to say a couple things about baking these relationships. The company itself was when I went to LA and would come back to New York, it was my safe place. It was the place where I would ground myself and and got inspired. We'd go away, do these summer intensives where we brought new works up, and company members or invited writers. And it was really the purest place that fed my soul, my artists, where Hollywood was the business. We would just show up and do these readings and be inspired by people's growth as human beings and also as talent. And I talk about that all the time. It was definitely the beacon of my artistic path, and it still is. There've been a few times where we've almost dissolved, and some of my dearest friends are in that company to this day that I turn to. And David Zayas' wife, Liza Zayas, is definitely one of them. Yeah. Oh. And David, I consider those two definitely family.
And she did win a drama desk yesterday. Did she not?
She did. One of us.
I'm gonna share a picture from this of the cast that you not this one. Let's go to this one. Are you seeing the cast?
Yes.
Okay. So
look at that. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Look at this beautiful group of people. And what's the name of the play?
Oh, Halfway Bitches Go Straight to Heaven.
Oh my gosh. Look at all these people. And this is Liza.
I know.
Yeah. And this is John Ortiz.
Yes, that is Liza. She was and it was his first directorial debut. It was his directorial debut, and he was nominated.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was quite a ride, quite a challenge. Yeah. It was wonderful, and it was really, really hard. And it was co-produced by the Atlantic Theater Company, and Neil Pepe and everyone there were incredibly supportive, as Stephen Adly Guirgis, the playwright, had done a play there before that won a bunch of awards between Riverside and Crazy. And so they were really supportive and told Stephen if he wanted to bring his play there that was not even fully written yet, wow. That they were happy to have it. And so, I mean, who does that?
Well, I mean, it's so great to hear some of the inner workings of the Labyrinth Theater and how you're creating work together and encouraging each other to try on different hats, no pun intended, but try out different roles and things like that. And it actually, just FYI, it reminds me of the group theater back in the 30s when they were retreating. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Like they would go out and retreat and have during the summer and do the workshops. Yeah. So that's really rad. So and kind of coming back to 1155. So now you've been working with this group for, by then it would have been 25 years, right? Or not? Or
I was there. It was around 5 years before I was, and Ben had been talking that he was writing this film and this part for me. And then I read it and we rehearsed we got together, rehearsed did a couple of table reads of it. And then, it was just about trust and working with each other. I had directed Victor in a reading of a one act at our summer intensive the year before, maybe 2 years before.
Oh, wow.
Of a one act, which was his introduction to the company. And he was just invited. And when we shot this film, he wasn't a company member. He is now. But yeah, we just came together and did this film. And there's so many people in that film that are friends, some that are in the company, some that aren't. And it's just amazing to see them, because the guy, Mike Carlson, the one that plays the brother that goes upstate.
Yeah.
The guy that comes to avenge his brother's death. He's in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and he is nothing like this character. He's nothing like this character. And I just watching it the other day, I was like, all these guys are playing these really tough, and I was just like, he's so nothing like this guy. It's so great to I was like, I have to remember to tell them that.
And I've read that about you, that people will see you in something and not realize it's you, because you have such a dynamic range. And even in this film, we see Barracuda, soft belly. We just see the whole thing. And I also love that you have the last line in the movie, by the way.
That I have what?
Don't you have the last line in the movie?
Oh, yeah.
Which genuinely made me laugh out loud.
It's hilarious. It was like, I watched it the other day, and it was a little bit of me. It was like, Why?
I
did have the last line, and I didn't even realize that. That's because I said it, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh,
I don't even know if I made that line up or if it was written. I have no idea. I don't remember.
I was going to ask you if it was made up. And if it was made up, were they doing the sound from in the car?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so it wasn't in post or anything like that.
No. I think I did very little post. Maybe one line. Yeah, it was cold. It was a hard shoot. They used the community, which was a very depressed community. And they hired some of the people in the community to be the PAs, which always really works on any level. Same thing happened, Michael Mann does the same thing, whether it's $100 million or 200,000, it's a good idea to involve the community if you go in.
And where did you shoot?
We shot upstate. They wanted to shoot it in Holyoke, but it was too far.
Oh.
It was in it was too far to shoot in Holyoke, which is the original name of the film was 1155 Holyoke. Right. And then it was just changed to 1155.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I've seen it written both ways. Okay, so what has life been like? Let's talk pre-COVID. What has life been like since wrapping that film and now?
Oh, good question. Life has been so many things. I was, as it often is, wrapping that film, I believe, in the second season of Orange. It was shot in Newburgh. 55.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. And that is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting, right? People don't know about Newburgh. You can speak a little on that.
Well, I don't know much about it, but it is an interesting, tiny little depressed area in the middle of kind of Tony upstate New York, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the area around it.
It's beautiful. Like Main Street, you can see the water across Main Street. And I believe at one time some of the founding fathers had homes up there and got together there. And it's very, very depressed. There's not much going on there. So the where the apartment that we shot in, those houses were actually boarded up. That's what, and and the neighbors would come over and want to talk to me, and it was quite an adventure and eye-opening. Not eye-opening because I was born and raised in New York City, but realizing that we were shooting exactly where this film could, where the world could have easily happened.
And did they recognize you? Did the neighbors recognize
Some people did. From Orange, yeah. They did. So I was in the middle of filming either the second or third season of Orange. And of course, while I was filming this was when I was really heavily in an episode of Orange. So I got very little sleep. I was working night and day, which happens to me so much. Really? Where I'll be like nothing, or I am working night and day on more than one project. Since then, what did I do? I ended up doing the first season of Fear the Walking Dead. I did another 4 seasons of Orange is the New Black. I did, I guess, 4 or 5 seasons altogether, 6 seasons as a recur, with a recurring role in Power. What else did I do? I did Logan. I don't know. Did Logan go before or after? I have no idea if Logan was before or after.
Well, it came out in 2017.
It might have been before.
17? Did it not?
Well, maybe it was after. I should have looked. I should have IMDb myself. I'm such an unprofessional actor.
I can tell you. So Logan.
I've done some stuff. I've done some plays. I did a couple plays in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just did that play in New York, which was the first time going back to the theater in New York since I was on Broadway.
Where you were Tony nominated.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that
was Tony. Yeah. So I've been busy. It's really interesting because I don't ever feel like I'm busy. It's only in hindsight that you look back and go, oh, I did this and this and this and this and this and this. When you're sort of living your life and not necessarily having things planned, because I don't have that career where I say yes to a film that's being developed and 6 months from now I know I'm going to have that and I'm getting things offered to me per se. It always feels like I'm still looking for work. And when I get it, oftentimes it's like pretty immediate that it starts, except with plays that you have some rehearsal schedule. But so you just jump into this world and you don't really have time or space to process it until you're on the other side of it.
Would you prefer for it to be different?
It'd be really good to I've enjoyed it. I prefer not to have to audition. I'd be happy if I never had to audition again in my life. In fact, I have a self-tape when I'm done with you.
Well, you're more than
a self-tape audition.
You can submit this interview as well.
Okay. I should just see if you could give me some acting notes.
Yeah. But can you, but again, so from what I hear from Labyrinth and then what I hear with friends, like having somebody write a part for you, you are now working on your own project, right?
I am working on my own project. I co-wrote a film with Ben Snyder, one of the writers, of 1155, and he's wanted to work and develop something with me for quite some time. He was, we had many lunches through a year and a half, and he talked about what is it that you want it to be. Do you want it to be a film? Do you want it to be a play? Do you want it to be TV? And ultimately, we just started having conversations based on family and history. And we ended up working in the process of Mike Lee, which is gathering story, having people talk about very clear stories that they know, not necessarily themselves, but stories of people that they may know and what they know about that person. And so we realized that it was going to be a family drama. And then we invited Liza Zayas and Daphne Rubin Vega, which are incredibly amazing women and talents and friends, into the mix, and he interviewed them the same way, and we gathered all this information, and then Ben created an outline. So then he and I started working, which was a really wonderful way to go into it, with combinations of just stories that are personal to us, not necessarily that happened to us, but yeah. And so it's called All's Well, and it deals with adoption and addiction, and just, it has comedic moments, and when you try to come outside of it, the family always brings you back in, and how do you you always have to sort of come back and face things that you think you don't have to, before you can fully move forward and accept what those things are. So and it's called All's Well because there's a restaurant named All's Well in Brooklyn, but it's also a play on Shakespeare and All's Well, the word. So that just happened to be just luck that we know the owners of that restaurant, and it plays a role in the film. I know.
Oh, that's cool. And do you have plans on when the next steps happen?
Well, we spent a bunch of time through this time rewriting and working on it, and we just read it again a couple of weeks ago with Liza and Daphne, and we're going back in. At this point, we don't want to shoot in the winter, so hopefully next spring, summer, and then we just have to raise money. So that's what we're doing.
That's so
and
cool.
I'll be the lead.
So, and can you talk a little bit about what these other, not specifically Liza and Daphne, but it seems like women have played a really big part in your life and career, the sisterhood of it, and
the women have played a really big part in my career.
Or your life.
Well, I feel like if you meet incredible women, I know that the women I have gathered as friends and now my tribe are all really solid, independent, intelligent, badass women. And I think that when you meet women like that, immediately you just can talk about anything almost, and it's a different kind of conversation, and you get inspired I've gotten just inspired by women like that, Jenji Cohen, what she did with the show. Like, you don't realize what's missing until you're faced with it. Like, you're just living your life and you're working in the business, and then one day you're in the middle of a studio and they're women not only in the departments that we all are used to having them in hair and makeup and in wardrobe, but you look around you and there's more people in crew that are women, and you're having a DP for a couple of seasons that was a woman, and you have more directors that are women, and you're just surrounded by women and set designing, and all of a sudden you realize it. And then also from the Netflix side, there were all these executive women, and they'd show up, and there was this thing that woke up inside of me that was just giddy. It was giddy. It was like, and it's not that I support work that it's just because it's women. I mean, because to a fault, there's a company, the Women's Project in New York, and if it doesn't speak to me, if it's not good, I'm not going to support something, regardless if it's, done by Martians or pygmies. And so I just felt like it was this incredible feeling and awakening and pride that I didn't even know was missing in me when you look around and there's so many women around you doing this work, and not just doing it well. You know, it was really life-changing. And I think Netflix opened up a door, right? That show, she speaks about it all the time. Having Taylor be the story being about that character was basically a Trojan horse in selling the show, because if she was going to talk about it, she was going to talk about, oh, it's about black women, Latin women, women in prison. You know, at that time it would have been probably most likely a no. And so it had to go through her story, Taylor's story, this white woman ending up in prison. But the thing about Netflix that changed the game is that it came out, it was a new medium, and I was shocked. Like, I remember we shot it in a vacuum, and I was like, well, it's like a dramedy, and and I was like, okay, women will like it probably. And within days of it coming out, and I wasn't feigning humility, I was just literally like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Also because I hadn't, all I saw was the days I shot, so I had no sense of the entire piece or the full tone of it. And immediately, like, people's neighbors, the like working class guy, I was in a party in New Jersey, and the working class neighbor's husband was like, I just saw you last night on. The thing that everyone was watching. And so not only were people watching it here and liking it, all shapes, sizes, and sexes and colors, but it opened up the world to this world where everyone paid attention to women's stories, women of every race, religion, and creed. And so the powers that be that held the reins in Hollywood for so long had lost, they could no longer say and control, or at least not for much longer, what it was that people wanted to see and watch. And that was the biggest thing, which is huge. And that took me years to realize.
Yeah. And you were right there in the crosshairs of it. Oh.
Yeah, and it's just luck, right? It's so random. So many things are random, right? Isn't it that you have to be prepared and have luck and show up at the right place at the right time? I think that's happened to me a handful of times. And also, I've had hundreds of rejections. Hundreds.
That's good.
So there's that. Everyone talks about, everyone thinks that, they're like, where'd this person show up from? It's, the thousands of being fallen and actually getting back up that one last time, God,
I am so glad you kept getting back up. My gosh. That.
I don't know, and thank you so much. I don't know what else I could have done. Trust me. There was a couple of times when I was down, like, what else can I do? What other skills do I have?
Yeah.
Real stories. I did have those moments. So I'm happy I kept getting back up too. Stubbornness.
Yeah. Ooh, boy, that really got me. Wow. Well, this has just been so cool to talk to you. We could talk for hours, or I could listen for hours. I don't know. But so we like to go out on a lightning round here. But before we do that, is, taking to heart what you just said, the luck and the timing and the all the things that have to kind of come together for that magic to really ignite and push forward. Is there anything you would say to somebody who's thinking about acting, writing, storytelling, maybe somebody marginalized, whether it's a woman, a person of color? What would you say to them?
Good question. I would say that if it's truly your passion, then you have to pursue it, and you can't put a timeline on it. And there will be plenty of people and situations that will make you doubt yourself, and that only you know your truth, and only you can write your story or tell your story or draw from your world and your story and your perspective of the world. And you have to just really keep doing it and nurture yourself, because being an artist in this country is so difficult. And you have to constantly just nurture yourself and surround yourself with people that inspire you, so that you can continue to be inspired and to reignite that passion when that voice keeps telling you you can't and you're not enough and what do you have to say and who wants to listen. Just know that it exists, become aware of it, and do it anyway.
Do it anyway. I love it. Okay. Elizabeth Rodriguez, coffee or tea?
Coffee. Unless I'm watching Downton Abbey, then it was full on tea. That's not a lie. That is full on honest truth.
Oh my God.
I was like, I want some tea. I can have tea. I need to have tea.
I love it. Okay. Pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
Okay. Woods or beach?
Beach.
Okay.
So
And
these are really hard because I like it all.
happy to stump you today.
All of it.
Okay, and
I
last,
like all of it. Yes.
would you bagel with schmear or avocado toast?
Bagel with schmear. I used to work in bagel shops. I was a manager of a bagel shop, 2 bagel shops.
We are
I had a bagel with a schmear yesterday.
Oh God, I'm so jealous. We do not have what we need out here on the West Coast. You must know this.
Yes, I do. When I first started going back and forth from New York to LA, I would bring bagels in my carry-on. One time, pre 9/11, I brought a full pizza up in the carry-on. I absolutely did, a whole pizza.
Was it still hot?
I picked it up no, it wasn't. I picked it up on my way to the airport, and then when I got home to LA, I invited a couple friends and we reheated it, but it was still a whole New York pizza pie. And
where do you get your pizza from in New York?
Oh, I don't have one place. I live in Queens, so there's not that many places. Pizzas from a line from Stevens Play. Pizza's not what it used to be in New York. You have to go to, Connecticut to get that pizza, how it used to be, or to Brooklyn. There's a couple places downtown, but, there's also a lot of great brick oven pizza you can get in restaurants. You just have to pay more for it now.
Yeah. It's a trend. Yeah. Elizabeth, I thank you so much for being with us today. This is just great.
Oh my God, my pleasure.
Thank you.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck with everything, and we'll be in touch. Best of luck.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So that's our show for today. I can't imagine a more delightful way to have spent the Sunday, except to also be connecting with you, our audience. This has become a really special time for us. One thing I'm going to do is I am going to put this banner on. If you'd like to see this program grow and continue, as well as our other programs, including our educational work, which we'll be reporting out on this week, please go to avfilmsociety.org and donate. Also, next week, we have our our Pride Mini Film Fest, where we have Eat the Rainbow, a short from Brian Benson, and Through the Windows from Brett Parker and Petey Parma, I believe. And we're going to have all of the filmmakers with us at this time next week, 2 p.m. We'll be live talking about their work, pride, and celebrating being alive in this moment. So to all of you, stay safe, take care of one another, and we'll see you at the movies.